I now call order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, November 17, 2015 at 6:30. Roll call.
Mayor Archie.
Here.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Tarpon.
Here.
Commissioner Banther.
Here.
Commissioner Sieber. Here.
Is Reverend Bob Russell here? I don't see him, so we ask our attorney if he would give us the invocation. Everyone stand, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance following.
Lord, we gather as those seeking to improve our community. Whether or not we always agree, we are committed to making Tarpon Springs a better place to live for all of its citizens. Give us open minds, generous hearts, caring attitudes, and the courage and wisdom to make a difference. And during this Thanksgiving season, we pray for a blessed and safe holiday next Thursday. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now go to public comments on any item that will not be discussed this evening. If you have something, go to the podium, sir. State your name and address for the record. You'll be given up to 4 minutes.
All right. Good evening, council members. My name is Bobby Woods. I live at 1616 Explorers Drive right here in Tarpon. First off, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a student of the Public Policy and Administration program at St. Pete College, and I'm here tonight on behalf of my final project, which is the last assignment before I graduate next month. Thank God. For our final project, our task is to basically think of a community issue and then put that framework together to solve it. So I have chosen to focus on traffic calming initiatives that could possibly be implemented on my street. Now, just to make clear, I'm in no way here, coming here to make demands or to criticize or anything like that. I'm just here in part because I'm required to be here as part of the class requirement, and also to inform you of my ideas for the traffic calming measures that could possibly be implemented on my street to benefit all the residents. So as a small child, my parents, through a collaboration with the city of Tarpon Springs, were actually able to have 2 stop signs put up on my street, which were needed greatly. Since then, speeding and negative motor vehicle use has decreased. However, I still continue to hear the complaints of certain neighbors regarding speeding and running the stop signs. So that's what gave me the idea to pursue this topic for my capstone project. And as we know, physical traffic calming measures such as speed humps can have many negative impacts, especially emergency and medical service vehicle response times, and it can be very costly. So for these and other reasons, I've decided to focus on non-physical traffic calming measures such as pavement markings or roadway striping. Now, the main reason why I'm pursuing this project is to increase the safety and quality of life of residents in my neighborhood, along with the non-residents, pedestrians, cyclists, and all the stakeholders. The children play a very special role in this project for me due to the fact that there are many, many kids on my street they're very active. They're outside and they play a lot. This was the main reason why my dad wanted the stop signs put up on our street, and successfully was able to do that. And after speaking with various experts in this field, I've come to the conclusion that pavement markings and roadway striping could be the best alternative for my street. In lieu of many of the traditional traffic calming measures, roadway striping and pavement markings can be implemented as a traffic calming option that's viable, low-cost alternative to other various physically engineered measures. These roadway striping and pavement markings, they have much less of a detriment impact upon emergency service vehicles, less costly to construct, provide greater flexibility to meet future changes, have no adverse impact to drainage, are recognized by local residents as standard traffic control devices, can provide bike and parking lanes, can successfully reduce speeds from 1 to more than 7 miles per hour, and can be implemented quickly. So in closing, again, I just want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my school project and my goal to make my street a safer place. appreciate all your efforts to make Tarpon a better place.
Thank you. I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to give that to Chief or anybody within the police department. If you would, then somebody will look at it and see if those ideas that maybe can be implemented.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, we go to our agenda. The first thing I would like to do is just to announce that the second reading of two ordinances will be scheduled at a later date, and that's ordinance 2015-17, Tarpon Terrell amending future land use map from RM to CL, and that will be second reading. And also ordinance 2015-16, Tarpon Terrell amending zoning map from RM 15 to WD1, and that's also second reading, just for those that might be here because of those two items. Next, we'll have a presentation, and it's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year 2015, and we have a little certificate to our Finance Director, Mr. Ron Herring. Thank you. All of your hard work. Are you going to make a presentation on that one or the following one? The following one. Oh, okay. All right. Probably should have killed two birds with one stone, but we also have a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting fiscal year 2014, and we have this, and there's a little presentation. So thank you again.
I just have a little something, but it's brief. You know, we're accepting these awards. I'm accepting them, but they're really for the whole city. Let's see if I can get this going here. I just wanted to go over the awards. I don't know if somebody might know where they are, where they come from. I don't know if you can hear that. The GFOA is the Government Finance Officers Association. It represents all public finance officials in the United States and Canada. The GFOA established the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award in 1984 and the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award in 1945. That's what both these are. Both of these awards are the highest form of recognition in each of these areas. Sorry, my PowerPoint, I guess, isn't working that great. But to receive the award, a government needs to meet certain criteria and standards annually. The applications for the awards are reviewed by GFOA staff and outside reviewers with public sector finance and budgeting experience. I happen to be a reviewer, too, for the financial award, but they don't give me Florida one, so they just have me do the other states and stuff. So, the city has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 17 consecutive years. And the city has received a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for 24 consecutive years. That's all those little wood plaques you see out front of our office now, but they don't give us the wood plaques. They now give us one marble thing, and they give us these little circles we stick on, and now I think they're saving money, but. Well, my last slide here, it's just acknowledgments and stuff. My last slide, it just said the finance staff, I'm very fortunate. I have a very good finance staff. You know, I don't know what I'd do without them. With the departments, especially with the budget award, we're always asking departments for information, and they're always very helpful. And the last people to thank is the city manager and the board of commissioners. Without your all's leadership and the tools you give us, we wouldn't be able to get these awards. And that's all I had. If anybody's got any questions or.
I don't have any questions. I don't know if anybody else does, but again, I just thank you, and first of being the lead person, but also all of the staff that's been involved with continuing to show that our financial staff is an excellent one. So I just want you to thank everybody on behalf of us and the work that they do.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll now go to an addendum item, and this is a piece for Tarpon, and it's the, I guess it's the Mobilizing Action for Resilient Communities grant that they've received.
Well,
Singer.
Thank you. Have a relaxing moment. We're getting there. All right, I think that'll do it. So I just hit the arrow button for the next one? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Well, good evening, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening to share some very exciting news with you. And greetings to the mayor, vice mayor, and the commission. And it's a pleasure for me to be here on behalf of Peace for Tarpon to share with you that we were awarded special recognition through what is called the MARC grant, which is Mobilizing Action for Resilient Communities. This is a grant funded by the Health Federation of Philadelphia, which is a public health organization, in conjunction with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and also the California Endowment. It is a 2-year grant of nearly $300,000. And there were only 14 communities in the United States awarded this grant. So if you look at the map on the front, I don't know if you can see it, but a map of the United States, and you'll see way down here, it says Tarpon Springs, and not much in the middle. We're in good company. There's a community in Alaska, Boston, Philadelphia, Wisconsin, Montana, Sonoma County, California, Washington State, and we're the only community that's doing it in just the way that we are. We returned last week from our first convening with all the communities, where we were able to present to them Tarpon Springs, Florida, and you see the representation we have here of the Epiphany celebration and also our Sponge community. We were asked to share images that were really significant to our city, what made us stand out from other communities, and I think that really rang true with folks. It's a very, very significant award, and we are going to be doing lots of great things with it. But I'll just share with you a few reasons why Tarpon Springs is the place for this to be. You all know that this is our place, the city of Tarpon Springs, beautiful nature, working waterfront, historic downtown, sunsets, concerts on the beach, and it's our place. But what makes us even more unique is our people. And here you see Officer Yagulis, our homeless outreach officer, with a child from the Cops and Kids program. On the right, you see some folks who were doing home visitations from Tarpon Elementary School to ask parents what they need for their children to succeed in school and how the families could connect better with the school, with the elementary school. The bottom left is Annie Dabbs, a resident, started her own program, self-organized Union Academy Reader's Choice, to encourage children to read. And when she gets her friends together at Dorset Park, she brings books for all ages and has the community, has volunteers read to the children read to the adults, and the children are given books to take home with them. But this is an example of things that Peace for Tarpon supports. And of course, on the right, you see the young man with the Epiphany celebration representing the part of our heritage that is the Greek community. Besides our people, our purpose. And I shared some of these posters with the commission today. You've probably seen them around town, here in City Hall, in the safety building, at the library. And this pretty much this was our first social marketing piece, but this pretty much says what Peace for Tarpon is all about. It's a community initiative with the understanding that we have to engage residents, businesses, and service providers and agencies to address trauma. Everyone experiences trauma. We believe trauma is a universal experience, and unless we address that, we're basically addressing symptoms. So Peace for Tarpon seeks to address the root causes of issues such as homelessness, domestic violence, but also personal relationships, families. Whenever there's a challenge, whether it's with a coworker, a family member, or basically anyone in community and business, whatever, you're looking at someone's trauma history that is a challenge that we face. We believe that as a compassionate community, listening without judgment, knowing that there are reasons behind behavior, nobody acts out randomly, there are always reasons, whether it's behavior of a child in a classroom who's unruly or a neighbor that you just can't get along with. There's something deeper than what you're seeing on the surface, and that's what we look to address. Our slogan is offer the peace you can. We believe everyone has a piece to offer to the solution. But we're also our passion. This is a project that was started by two residents, by a minister of the Unitarian Church and an art therapist. These two women came together with the vision of having a public art project at Craig Park in conjunction with our big art fair that we have every spring. And between the two of them, there were 4,000 flags that were created by residents from ages of 18 months to over 80 years old. All the schools, the churches, after-school programs, senior centers, the library, the park, the farmers market, these flags were created to raise public awareness of Peace for Tarpon and the work that we're doing. We want Tarpon Springs to be a trauma-informed community where the needs of all are met. It's a huge undertaking, but that's where we're going with it. This afternoon, I was called by the Office of the Governor of the state of Florida by a gentleman named Zachary Gibson, who's the Chief Child Advocate and Director of the Office of Adoption and Child Protection in the Executive Office of the Governor. He called to congratulate us on the MARC grant and to ask how he could support us in our work. And it was quite an honor. We spoke for about an hour, and also with Maureen Honan, who is in charge of the state trauma-informed work group in Tallahassee. So it was a great conversation. And it's, I encourage you to look at our Facebook page, look at our website, or give one of us a call. Happy to meet you for a cup of coffee and share the work that we're doing. It's a little bit unusual, but because it is so unusual is the reason that we were recognized and chosen as one of 14 cities across the United States to receive the MARC funding. I'd like at this time to introduce to you some folks that have joined me here this evening, and so you can have some faces to see some of the other great support that we have with Peace for Tarpon. And just you can raise your hand or stand or whatever suits you. Lisa Blackburn-Ulvin is a Tarpon resident and is on our board. Wendy Sedlacek is our project manager who has been hired to move our initiative forward. Mary Sharrow is a community partner. And then Robin Sotelo-Red is the executive director of Tarpon Springs Housing Authority, who is our fiscal partner in this. In order to get these funds, we had to have fiscal sponsorship to help us process our programs, to keep track of all the funding, and it's a huge responsibility. And our local Community Housing Corporation, LCHC, stepped up and became that fiscal sponsor. So we're very, very grateful for their support and for all the work that they've done to help us, and will continue to help us for the next 2 years. So are there any questions? Happy to answer any questions if you have any. And also, as I said, happy to meet with you individually. And I know when I leave here, I'll remember the things I didn't say, so maybe.
Well, you know, that might not be a bad thing. But first, I just want to say is I thank you and all of the individuals and organizations that's involved with Peace for Tarpon. To me, it goes to show when you just do the work because there's work to be done, the money comes. It wasn't because of the money that Peace for Tarpon was started. It wasn't the money that's the driver in the work that's being done. And I first, you know, I congratulate you and thank you, because I know that, you know, you've been at the forefront for a number of years in terms of continuing to try to keep this in front of everyone, including this elected body. And I know that there's gonna be good work done in the community with the dollars, and this is only the start of continuing to make Tarpon a trauma-informed community, and there's, I think, a lot of good things that's gonna happen because of the effort. And like I say, sometime I've seen agencies and people only form because they want to try to get money. And that was never the purpose for this. And the money still came, and I think the money will continue to come as the work that has been started is continued to show itself in the city of Tarpon. So I just say to the whole is thanks, and I know that Tarpon community will appreciate all of the work that will be done in the future. You know, dollars always help a little bit more in terms of doing the work, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Archie, for your support. You've been with us since day one, and we'll continue to come before the commission to share with you our progress, what we're doing as we move forward with this. But it's interesting that you say that about the dollars, because we've been working without funding for so long that when the opportunity came to us, and our board was talking about it and our steering committee, the question was, well, what would we do with money? Because we've basically been doing it without money. But we figured out some things that we could do with money that we couldn't do without money. I think y'all got in your packets maybe. Did you see the press release? Did you get these? All right, very good. And I'll leave some more with Ms. Jacobs in case she has some residents who come in and would like to see a copy of that. So thank you for your attention. And if there are no further questions.
Any comments?
I just wanted to say thank you, Robin, for taking the initiative and working so hard to be awarded this grant. And I know it's necessary and needed, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do with those dollars and talking to you some more about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cyber. I know you have a heart for this as well because of your work that you've done as a counselor in the schools. And Pinellas County Schools are one of our significant partners, as is St. Petersburg College, Suncoast, Directions for Living, Cops and Kids Program, Tarpon Springs Police Department. But I think even more importantly is our community residents. What makes us a little bit different is that generally in initiatives, you'll find a lot of agencies and providers and those types of folks, professionals at the table. Our table is getting more half and half with community partners who are stepping up. And I know that that's kind of a wild card. When we run for office, we say, I'll be your voice, but when the place is full of citizens, it's not always the most, sometimes it's a little bit disconcerting. But our citizens, our residents, and are also the heart and soul of what we're doing, and I think that's one of the reasons why we were recognized. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I don't know if there's any public comments on this item. But thanks again, and hey, we look forward to the work that will be done in the future.
Thank you very much.
The next item that we have is our consent agenda. I don't know if there's any items that anyone want to pull or need additional information on. If not, then Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Roll call. Yeah, I'm sorry. Any public comments on any of these items? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. The next item is special consent agenda. Item number 11, award file number 160022-C-CM, unarmed security guard services. And this is a City of Tampa bid number 71082-814. You got this one?
Yeah, well, Tom Function's here, but let me just go over this. We've talked about this before. We need to secure this building. I'm certain I don't have to go into reasons why we need security on this building. But it's a process of locking up. In the point of locking it up, we need a point person. And for now, to begin with, we looked at what was out there, and there's a Tampa bid for unarmed security. So we want to start the process out with this method of somebody greeting and kind of screening the people before they're entered into City Hall. It'll be very low-keyed, But obviously, we'll have some citizens upset with it, but even last week, we had two incidents of people in City Hall, and I was happy that I was here at that time to deal with it. But, you know, again, the point of this, you know, came out last week when we had two people in City Hall that could have been problematic. So we're about set to lock up the building and secure it. This will be a greeter. This is, again, an existing contract. We've got the ability to end this contract within 30 days. Where we go in 3 to 6 months, we want to look at it, whether we go later with hiring somebody for it or using these services, we'll evaluate that. The chief's going to be working with that person along with Tom to set policies. Again, it's going to be a greeting, screening, looking for alerts and things at first and getting the people to the right place. So this will be a work in progress. Again, the chief's going to be working with it. The building will be secured, and this will be a person to direct, get people to come down and see and be able to identify possible problems and get some help here fast, instead of the person inside the building, inside the office, one of our staffs, and having to deal with a problem there. This will hopefully also act as a means of deterrence. So we found this contract a good contract. The chief will be involved with Tom in screening the person, so we get the right person. We can change that if we want, but again, we're going to be doing this for the first 3 to 6 months and evaluating, and then we may come back to you with some changes. But again, there's been many over the last 6 months, and like I said, 2 last week. We need for the safety of our employees in this building to get this done. So this will allow us to at least start it right now.
I don't know, for you or the chief, how much control do we have in terms of hiring an individual? Will it be provided through the contract itself? Or?
Yeah, we will actually interview the applicant along with the company that hires. They cannot hire without our okay.
And after that, then that person will be working directly, in a sense, for us? I mean, in terms of directions
Yes.
that they receive?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any, Commissioner Tarpon?
Where's the person going to be stationed?
Be stationed at the front entrance. We're going to be building over the Thanksgiving holiday a little reception area where, if you remember walking into Development Services, there's that reception area they've got. We're going to be walling and securing that into a waiting room, both for Developmental Services and the people who come in City Hall to see somebody. So he'll greet them as they come in the front door, get the information they need. They'll have a nice waiting room to wait in for the individual departments to come get them, bring them down to them, and that's how we're going to begin the process.
And then the other points of entry, east, west, and south, are going to be locked?
They'll be secured and locked. And we'll have signs outside directing them. We'll make sure employees don't park up front, so we'll direct people to parking in front for visitors. So they come in there, signs in the back parking lot about the changes, and get the word out to let that know. So we'll move and make sure the parking available for the public is in the front, since that'll be the only access to get in the building. There is access for the wheelchair. That person at the front will have access to open the wheelchair door on the side to bring, people who are disabled in that door and that stuff. So that'll be all set up in the controls that he'll have outside that office.
And then the other points of access will be, even though they'll be locked for entry, you'll be able to exit out those doors, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
I just say along with that, then that means that the collection office, the clerk's office, still would be independent of what happens within the main, let's say, the building itself.
Yeah, they've got we secured them a while ago. They have a very secure, safe building over there, and that's what we're trying to do and model over here with the waiting room we're going to build and the entryway.
I know that in doing it, there'll be additional probably things in terms of whether when you exit out those doors, there's any type of audible sound in case, somebody is exiting, somebody's trying to enter, you know what I mean, in terms of trying to make sure that, people are going out and not coming in.
Again, we'll have some security means, but those are things that are exempt from the public records and stuff. We don't really want people, but we will have means. There are security means in this process and stuff to monitor that.
That, and I think signage is probably going to be some of the more important things that people are not wondering and frustrated about, you know, how do I get in this building, you know, I think would be important. Any additional questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Vice Mayor.
Staff will still be able to utilize the side doors, or staff will only be?
They have the, you know, the cards, the
Yeah.
reader cards and stuff, be able to get in and out those doors, yes.
Okay. So this would only affect during business hours?
Yes.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? If you have a public comment, you need to go, state your name and address for the record. You're giving up to 4 minutes.
Hi, my name is Ron Kubiak. I live at 445 East Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. My only comment about this, I think what you're saying is exactly what we need. I think on the exiting, it would be just a minimal amount of expense to put some kind of device on there that if it stays open for a period of like over a minute, that it automatically starts an alarm and you go shut the door. And I know that I've had features like this at my house, so I know that you could put it on here for relatively inexpensively, and I think it would suit all the problems that we could see here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? We have a motion. Roll call.
Commissioner Seaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. The next item, we have a special event application, First Friday Events, 2016.
This is a new event. I know they've got a representative here to speak to that new event. If you'd like to go up and tell them about this event you're planning. The only difference from the application is I asked you to approve that this go through November. They have asked for it to go through December, but their November date will conflict with Snow Place 2016. So the only difference from the application, if you choose to approve it, is that it would go February through November. And if you want to go up and explain to them, the representative.
Dan, we both have something, he's going to address something
Well,
also. We both have
just, if y'all could go to the podium.
Hi, my name is Sherry Wendt, and I live at 631 Eunice Drive in Tarpon, and I'm a board member on the Merchants Board. We brought this suggestion forward for the First Friday because we really want to do something that can make it more family-friendly, have events that would be something that would be expected every month, that would encourage local people to come, and we'd love to have outside people come also, but we'd really like to encourage. The downtown is growing, and we're getting a few more restaurants, we're getting newer merchants, and we just really want to have that feeling of, okay, they're looking forward to something in Tarpon, just as we have like the Night in the Islands in the docks, which is something that is sponsored that we do. We have our Sunset Beach activity when we have the concerts. So we think this might be a little boost for downtown that would particularly encourage. We have a couple of new merchants here tonight that have brought brand new stores into downtown, and we see this desire for people. I know I have a store downtown, but I also have a real estate license, and there are people coming here that really want to come to Tarpon, which is really cool. And so when you go to the events, when we go to Dunedin or Safety Harbor and around our area, and we see the huge amount of fun and restaurants and food and people coming to their Friday nights, we're thinking, well, we should be able to pull that off in Tarpon. That would be really great. And it will not just help downtown, but people then go out to eat, and they will go down to the docks. They will go all over Tarpon. So we just are hoping that this is something that you'll work with us on. We know that there may be a conflict occasionally, and we will work with that. Sometimes we can work in conjunction, and we appreciate you letting us give this a try and hoping that all of our merchants that you know or that you are part of, you will encourage them to participate. And we'd like to address, we're happy that for the most part the city manager is in approval, but Dan's going to we have an idea of how to kind of incorporate the existing events along with our First Friday, so Dan is going to address one of the questions that you had, if that would be possible.
Hi, everyone. Dan Jenkin, Vice President at Tarpon Springs Merchants Association. As you know, we're an all-volunteer organization, and last year alone, we raised over $25,000, and all of that money went back 100% into promoting and advertising Tarpon Springs. And it was done through a number of different media, whether it's, if you're at Clearwater St. Pete Airport, you will see large billboards that are in baggage claim welcoming us, visitors to the area. We're in Allegiant Air brochures. We do a lot of radio now in print media and then online. One of the reasons we want to start this event is for continuity and to say that how can we continue to raise more funds, and the best way to do that is to know that we can do an event each month and that people will become accustomed to these events. We bring thousands of people. I don't know how many people were at Seafood Festival this past weekend, but it was one of our most successful events. It's the third year that we've resurrected that, and it was a huge success for us. Oktoberfest is another example of that. So Sherry and Carol and a few others that are on our board has asked if we could start what has been very successful in other communities, a First Friday. And Mr. LaCourse brought up a very good point. One of our other big events of the year that we certainly volunteer in, but we don't sponsor, is Snow Place like Tarpon. And it is on Tarpon Avenue in the first week of December, and we certainly don't want to conflict with that. And we understand there are other retailers in the area that are mindful of that, and of course what the city has planned. And what we'd like to possibly recommend, and if we need to, we could amend the application for that 12th First Friday, is that we could move those vendors to either Hibiscus Street, Stafford Avenue, or Orange Street. And why we think that is important is similar to us in building a continuity of the event so that customers or visitors can predict or know every First Friday there's an event. Our vendors that we're going to be soliciting or trying to bring on board, and they're key to this, they're going to know predictably that there's an event every month. And if we miss one, it's totally understandable. If we get out 11 out of 12, I can understand. We can certainly make amends for that. But I think that we'd like to go back and meet with Mr. LaCourse's office and see how we could possibly dovetail Snow Place with the Merchants Association First Friday. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. I don't know, and this is something that you can probably work out, I would think.
You can vote it through November, and I'm always
Yeah.
glad to discuss it.
And what I was gonna say is that if we do this through November, you're talking about still having something on that quote-unquote First Friday, which could be added on to in terms of the additions that Mr. Jenkins is talking about, which still gives them the continuity, since, you know, something's gonna be happening the First Friday all the way, including this December. It's just how to work out the addition of vendors and where they would be in Russell, and I just believe that, you know, you guys can kind of figure that one out, you know, in terms of how it would go. Commissioner Tarpon?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on this are good. I mean, I certainly support events in the downtown. I think it's important to bring people to the downtown, to the docks, and, you know, other areas of town alike. My concern is a little bit what it appears Mark's alluded to and what he said in his memo to us. And this is what I've said to a representative from the Merchants Association, so it's not like I'm saying anything new, is that, you know, we have so many other good events as well throughout the course of the year, and it's just concerning based on, you know, feedback that I get from other residents, not even merchants, just residents about street closure. Especially on a Friday afternoon when you're trying to get home. I mean, obviously there's other routes and people become accustomed to that, et cetera. But when I've met with the representative from the Merchants Association, I said, because this is a new event, you know, perhaps we could do a 6-month trial and see if it worked. Because I think in hindsight, when we have events, if the event is not successful in you know, the vendors aren't there, or even the vendors aren't happy, or the participation's not there, then that looks bad for everyone, and you've got the entire street closed. So for me, I'm not necessarily willing to commit to a year that we can do this every month when we don't necessarily know if this is going to be successful. I totally understand what Dan said in terms of, you know, the vendors like to know so they can commit and it's more attractive to them. It all makes sense. So, you know, for me, I wish that we could do somewhat of a trial thing to see how it would go. And if it's a success, then great, so be it. Then we can incorporate it further. But, you know, on this particular application, I don't know that I've ever sat up here and approved something that commits the city and, you know, the city of Tarpon, the residents, everybody to a year. You know, everything generally that we approve is case by case, whether it's for a weekend or an event. So, you know, I'm not necessarily willing to approve something for a year. You know, I still would like to do the 6 months. I understand 6 months isn't good, 8 months, fine. You know, I'm even in support, you know, support of what Mark said for the 10 months. But I know that there's other events that we have scheduled. So for November, for example, if we do the First Friday event this coming a year from now, then you've got the street closed on the first Friday, and then you've got at least one other event downtown, I think is the Arts and Crafts show, is that right?
End of the month.
Yeah, at the end of the month. So, you know, potentially there's another event. So before you know it, you know, the street's closed 3 weekends out of the month. So, you know, to me, there's a balance. And I say that across the board. Like I said, I've heard from residents that just say, man, we're tired of the street being closed, you know? So, you know, those are my comments. I mean, I'm open to some kind of, you know, other suggestions from the board. But that's kind of where I'm at on this particular application. And I appreciate it being under special consent versus just consent.
And want I just clarify, you say that you're in agreement with the 10 months that the city manager's proposal,
I mean,
not having it in
ultimately,
January?
yeah, I mean, ultimately, if that's the wish of the board, you know, I'll support that. I'd ultimately like to see it for a little bit more of a trial period. I'm in agreement with Mark that it becomes a little bit overwhelming to the public if, you know, three weekends out of the month on a given month because of other scheduled events, you know, it gets a little bit overwhelming. So I'm in agreement with what his mindset was and why he wanted December excluded.
Well, and also, Mr. Function, I know he's not here, I believe we have the capabilities, I'm trying to get a clarification, I believe we have the capability under special events policy, if things aren't working out, to give notice and stop it. For instance, if there's problems in the first 3 or 4 months of the event, I believe we have a mechanism through the special event. He had left, he knows, been working with this a long time, but I believe we do have the capability to do that. If it becomes problematic, problemsome, or it's not working out, we have the ability, and I think with 30 days notice, again, I'm trying to remember the last time I did the policy, but that's why I wasn't particularly concerned about that, because we had the mechanism within the special events form to, if it wasn't working out, and, you know, even if we do something in our motion to approve it with the knowledge that if there are problems or difficulties that, you know, we have, you know, give them, you know, 30 days in the event. I think that's already in place. I don't have the policy here with me to confirm that, but that would be another mechanism, and that's what I thought we had in place to see if things go wrong, we have the ability to end the relationship and go on.
Well, that's probably an appropriate mechanism, you know, to have in place. You know, you never want to do that to somebody, but in some cases, you know, obviously that exists for a reason. So,
You have something, Vice?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I first would like to thank the Merchant Association for the work that they do. I think the events that they're doing are helping to bring people to the downtown area, and I think that's very important. And I think it's important that we do try to embrace this concept of doing something on a regular and consistent basis, so that residents know what's coming both in Tarpon Springs and hopefully bringing people from outside of Tarpon Springs to come to our area. In terms of wanting to do it for a shorter period of time as like a trial basis because we fear that it might not be successful, I guess my thought would be, well, first of all, the city manager already mentioned that the city has the ability to pull the plug if need be, but I presume, and you know, the Merchant Association can speak for themselves, but I believe, I'm guessing if the event isn't successful, they won't want to continue it either.
Very true.
You know, if it just isn't working out, I don't see that they're going to want to continue doing it on a monthly basis. And then the other thought, and maybe this is a question, again, for the Merchant Association to comment on, I don't have any experience in putting together events like this, but I'm wondering if we approve a longer period of time, does that make it easier to bring in vendors because it shows that the city is committed to the event, as opposed to if we approve a shorter period of time? I'm not sure if you guys want to comment on that.
Yes, by showing that it's a longer commitment ourselves, we're showing that we have confidence in this event and that it will be successful. And I think they can only judge that by what we're putting forward and what our other events have shown as being successful. So as much as I understand we're at the whim of the board, and we greatly appreciate that you are allowing us public access to these, without you allowing us or granting us that ability, Oktoberfest or Seafood Fest would not happen. So we appreciate all of that, but I think a longer term would be beneficial, but I totally understand what Commissioner Tarpon is saying as well.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just adding one thing which kind of corresponds to what you were saying is that when myself and a couple of the other board members have been going to events. We've been going out to all the Fridays. I went to the wine festival, and I've been asking. I mean, we've been talking about this for I think Mark's heard us talking about it for a year, but we wanted to make sure we could pull it off, and it was going to work, and it was going to work for our community. And would people come? So we're asking, would you come? I mean, I went to the wine festival recently. I took flyers with me, just a brief flyer that we were wanting to put forward a First Friday, and I collected cards, and I asked. And 95% of the people that I went up to, vendors that I liked what they had, people that I hadn't even seen before, would you come to us? And it was like pretty unanimously excited. I mean, it really made you feel good that they really wanted to come to Tarpon, and they'd heard good things about Tarpon. And one of the reasons we're asking for a year is we don't want them to think we're experimenting, or they won't choose us. They'll go somewhere else. And secondly, when it's sort of like the Oktoberfest, when a Friday night is one of our major events, like Oktoberfest that comes up, then we would like to be able to tell our vendors, we're not kicking you out. We're just going to try to make room for you somewhere in the process so that you're coming to Oktoberfest, but you'll be able to participate because you're one of our vendors, and we like you and we want to keep you. That's why we were thinking for Snow Place, maybe the city would allow us to do that. I don't know if they will, if we have the room, but we're wanting people out there to think that we're not just picking and choosing them and they have to go find something else to do that month, that we're really trying to include them into our city and what we're doing. But we understand if we can't do it, but that was the idea. We want them to think that, okay, you've chosen us, you've chosen to come, then we're going to make you part of the process. And that's why it's much better when you've got the year, and they think like, we're not just an experiment and we're going to go away anytime soon. Thank you.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just say this, is that from a personal perspective, I haven't really talked to the city manager. I don't think that there's probably anything that the city will be doing for a snow place like Tarpon that would exclude any of the vendors that are supporting the other First Friday. So to me, I don't think it's that hard to incorporate some things, and if it can be bigger, it seems like it's getting bigger anyway in terms of the various streets that is down now from when it first started. The other thing is really, trying to look, and I know that when I'm going to events, I've had people come up to me and say, y'all should do more of these type of things. And I know whatever we do, what Commissioner Tarpon talked about, there's some balance out there. And the balance is that everybody is not going to be happy. So with that, to me is that whatever mechanism that we have in place, that we continually look at making adjustments, modifications. One of the things that I would like to have, because I can't remember what those other instructions are, if you can make sure that we get a copy so that when we're dealing with this, we know what mechanism that we have to say, and this is not just for what you guys are doing, but this is just a rule of thumb, is that we have the opportunity to revisit, like we've done something that didn't really go well for us, and that was the market. You know, that we can revisit, make adjustments so that we can incorporate things that we're not thinking about, because ultimately, as far as the city is concerned, we want it to be successful. More people that we have coming, the better. The more people that enjoy it, the better. You know, for as Tarpon is concerned, the people coming from Tarpon as well as people coming from other places. So it's just, to me, a matter of how we look to make it happen. I think what Commissioner Tarpani talked about is already here, is that it will operate according to what's here for 10 months, then it ends anyway. And then it's, you know, revisiting where we're at. It gives you some time. That last December, to me, I think that it can be worked out. Whatever additional vendors, and something will be happening on that first Friday. So for the average person, they're not going to know whether Snowplace at Tarpon is another one of the first Friday events, or it's something that's different, because something's still happening on that Friday. So I don't know, Commissioner Barron, did you have something else, Vice Mayor?
No, I just was going to clarify the city manager's recommendation, but I think you just did, that the event would run through November, and theoretically there could be conversations about incorporating December, but the current recommendation would be to run through November.
And it starts in February too, so it's not, Commissioner Sieber?
Yes, I know we've talked about First Friday for probably several years, and some of the members, Merchant Association members on the docks, felt a little excluded. I understand what you're saying, because I know that we've approved some events like the market and Third Thursday that were not successful. So approving an event for a year could be problematic, but as the city manager said, if they're not successful, they will just be dropped. So I would go along with approving it for 10 months. And, you know, if it's not going to be successful, then we stop the events, you know, according to your mechanism.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And I was just going to touch on that as well, based on something that the Vice Mayor said. And by no means is it combative, but in terms of whether or not, you know, the event is successful, I feel like, you know, and the event will be continued, that's almost interpretation. What you may say is a successful event, I may say is not a successful event. So,
I agree.
you know, just to keep that in our minds as well, you know, I mean, so I'm okay with the 10 months as long as we have a mechanism in place and we get some clarity on how we may be able to exercise that.
And what I'll say is that, you know, in 10 months, what you say, what I say, what all of us say, if people out there think that it might be successful in your eyes, but it's a burden on them, they'll be in here letting whoever sitting up here know that, hey, you got to make some changes, because they don't think that it's going to work for them. So, you know, with that, I don't know if there's any, well, Chair will entertain a motion first, then we'll go to any public comments.
I move for approval of the city manager's recommendation.
Second. Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther, Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Thank you. The next item we have is item number 13, ordinance and resolution 2015-39, budget resolution for fiscal year 2015.
Resolution 2015-39, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the budget for fiscal year 2014-15.
Herron.
Good evening, Ron Herring, Finance Director. Budget Resolution 2015-39 is the last budget resolution for fiscal year 2015. Our fiscal year ends September 30th, 2015. These are some last items to be budgeted since our last budget resolution was done in June. I'm here to answer any questions on any items if you so choose.
Anybody have any questions for Sarah? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next, we have item number 14 is Resolution 2015-40, and that's budget resolution for fiscal year 2016.
Resolution 2015-40, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the budget for fiscal year 2015-16.
Aaron.
The Budget Resolution 2015-40 is the first budget resolution for the new year, fiscal year 2016. And basically, what it is doing, it's bringing the outstanding encumbrances from the end of the previous fiscal year 2015 and bringing them over in budgeting form. It's bringing reserves for donations that were at the end of 2015 and carrying those over. And it's budgeting for items that were not encumbered at the end of the year, but were approved and budgeted last year and carrying those items over. And if anybody's got any questions on those.
Any additional or any questions for Sarah? Seeing none, chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 15 is Resolution 2015-44, golf course fees.
Resolution 2015-44, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, providing for revisions to certain fees of the Tarpon Springs Golf Course related to the driving range and lessons by golf professionals and providing for an effective date hereof. It's Resolution 2015-44.
Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Paul Smith, Public Services Director, and with me here tonight is Howard Hunt, the golf course manager, and he'll be presenting you a brief overview of the resolution we're asking you to approve. We're fortunate enough to have Howard come on board a year ago, August, and since he's been with us, we've been making improvements to the golf course facilities and also adding some new programs. One of these things recently, maybe you've noticed as you've driven down alternate 19, but the driving range. One of the ideas that Howard had when he saw the old layout was there just wasn't enough grass area to recover in time to allow fresh surface for players, which is really important for golfers to have a good grass surface to practice on. So without giving away too many details, I'll leave it to Howard, but I'll just tell you that what he's presenting to you tonight is a follow-up to that, looking at some lesson rates and also some driving range programs that he'd like you to consider for approval. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. So, yes, we're presenting a new fee structure that we want to add to what we already offer at the golf course. As Paul alluded to, our current, our old driving range was not in very good shape. We had a lot of fencing that was in disrepair, and it was going to have to be replaced and repaired. And then, of course, the actual playing surface was in very bad shape due to, as he said, a lack of enough area to be able to handle the traffic that we had at the driving range. So when I first got here and found out about the water tank project that was going on at the golf course, and the fact that we had funds in our budget from fiscal year last year available to improve the driving range, and because the water tank was going to give us all the dirt we needed, okay, to go in and level it up and increase the area, we thought the time was a good time to move on it. So what we've done is effectively tripled the hitting area of our old driving range, which is going to give us a much better playing surface and help us to rotate and keep grass in good shape. I don't know, but golfers prefer to hit off natural grass. They don't like to hit off mats or anything else. They definitely don't like to hit off dirt, okay? And that's what we had before. So we've drastically improved that. We got a new fence. So with the help of the Public Services Department and the Public Works Department to come in there and help us with the grading of the dirt and handling all that, we were able to do everything within our budget from last fiscal year, which is great. So now what we want to do is benefit from that, and one of those is by offering a range membership, okay? Now, we do sell range balls by the bucket to our patrons that come to the golf course, but what we want to do is add something to that by offering them a range membership. Now, this is a way to bring them to the golf course more often. It's also the way to generate revenues from the new driving range that we haven't been able to tap into before. And I think it will greatly increase our revenue stream through what we offer the golf course. And in your Exhibit A, I think, you'll notice that we list them as single, couple, junior, 17 and under, and family. Those pretty much will categorize all the people we have that play golf and come to play golf. And you see the different rates. Now, in the right-hand column, you'll see a reduced rate for, and that is for our current annual golf members, okay? You know we sell an annual golf membership at the golf course, okay? And what we want to do is make sure we look after those people and give them a discount. But also, it's a way, when we promote the driving range, to also hopefully promote golfing memberships, okay? So if somebody comes in and requests, or wants some ideas or get some information about the range membership, that's when we can say, hey, not only can you get the range membership, but if you want to get a golfing membership as well, we can give you a discount on your range membership. So we're hoping that'll pay dividends on the golfing membership. And then lastly, at the bottom, we are looking at increasing our lesson rates. We did a survey earlier, probably a couple of months ago, of our area golf courses. If you want to say competitors, that's fine. But we surveyed 12 area golf courses and found that our lesson rates were somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 75% less than the average, okay? So we are proposing a $10 increase in the hourly rate from 40 to 50, and the $50 increase still leaves us $72 per hour below the average. So we're not increasing it too much, but we do feel that it hasn't been done in many years, and it would benefit the staff as well as, helping out the golf course as well. And I open it up to any questions.
Thank you. My only, question is, the assumption is the golf membership fee stays the same?
Yes, sir. Right now, the annual golf memberships or fees are going to stay the same, as well as what our current golf fees. This is something brand new. We haven't ever offered a range membership before.
Any questions for Mr. Commissioner Sibley?
Thank you, Howard,
Yes, ma'am.
for taking an initiative to do the area survey and also for introducing this new service, because I think it can bring in some revenue into the golf course and help us out. And I'm excited to see how it's going to work.
Thank you.
There are no questions. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. The next item is item number 16, ordinance 2015-22, amendment of charter, scrivener's errors in this first reading.
Ordinance 2015-22, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, submitting the following proposed amendments to the city charter to the electors of the city for approval. An amendment to correct and clarify grammar and scrivener's errors, and an amendment to section 33 to reflect the name change consistent with the current lease, providing that the charter shall be amended to incorporate any proposed amendment receiving a majority vote of the electors of the city in favor of such amendment, and providing for an effective date. It's first reading of ordinance 2015-22 by title only. Second reading will be held on December 1, 2015, and the ordinance will be published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on November 20, 2015.
Are there any questions anyone have about the changes? Vice Mayor?
Just for clarification, I understand we're voting tonight on these changes. We're not voting on ballot language at this point,
No, ballot language will come to you by resolution.
and that's the
On the-
same for the next agenda item as well?
Correct.
Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval?
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther? Yes. Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 17 is ordinance 2015-23, amendment of charter, lease agreement for Florida Hospital, North Pinellas, first reading.
Ordinance 2015-23, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, submitting to the electors of the City of Tarpon Springs a proposed amendment to Section 5.1, base rent of the lease agreement between the City of Tarpon Springs and the Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation and providing for an effective date hereof. It's first reading of ordinance 2015-23 by title only. Second reading will be held on December 1, 2015. It will be published in the Times by title only on November 20, 2015.
Thank you. I don't know whether you have anything to say about it or.
Probably the attorney here, I think he wrote this thing representing the bulk of what we talked about.
Yeah,
So
this is based on the series of meetings that we've had here in public on the request and the petition of the hospital to make a fiscal contribution to the proposed new emergency room at the hospital. I believe that the ordinance as drafted reflects what you folks wish to do in terms of that contribution. I do have a couple of changes, technical changes to make to it on second reading in terms of the named party in speaking with hospital's counsel today. And so functionally what happens in this is if the ordinance is approved, the reduction in rent to $300,000 will be effective. The ordinance presently reads on the date of certificate of occupancy, but in speaking with Mark in the building department, this project will not require a certificate of occupancy. It will require a certificate of completion. And the hospital, I believe, intends to construct the project without closing the ER. They'll do it in phases around it. They'll work with ACA to get their approvals as they go through it. But in terms of the city, we're going to base that benchmark on a certificate of completion issued by the building department, confirming that the construction has been done according to the standards that you all set forth. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So there will be a couple of changes coming to you on second reading. We will be tying the date of the reduction in the lease to the certificate of completion. But again, happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for the attorney? Commissioner Tarpon?
No questions. I just, as a comment, I would say that I think the ordinance reads well, Mr. Attorney, and I wish that in about hour 10 of our last meeting, you would have just said prorated, and that would have saved all the time we spent looking for that word in the, in the 10th hour. So the ordinance reads well. Thank you.
My pleasure.
There are no other questions. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Are there any public comments on this item?
Mr. Mayor, Bruce Burgum, CEO of Florida Hospital North Pinellas. I thought at the last meeting we had clarified that the reduction in rent would be effective with the ballot, successful passing of the ballot. Because as we pointed out to you, it would be, it could take up to 3 years to get completion of the project, I guess certificate of completion, I think is the term that we're using now. And, so it could take that far out to go through ACA along with the, phasing of the project, since we are going to keep the emergency room open throughout the duration of the project. So 18 months construction period, and I believe that we passed those comments along to council also. So wanted to seek clarification to that, because I know we talked about that right at the end of the 11th hour of last 2 weeks ago.
That was discussed, certainly, and I went back and reviewed the meeting video, and my impression of consensus, and they're certainly open to direct me differently moving forward, but my impression was that it was the board's will to make the reduction effective on the date of certificate of completion, or the official building closing of the permit. If that's not your will, if you have other direction, we certainly can make that for second reading.
And again, I think the word at that late hour and after the item before it, I think the word we're looking for is prorated, not to give them credit, because as you've seen from every plan I've given to you, that's not the case, and the money's been stated and going. If they complete the thing, I believe their rent is due in September. If they complete it 2 months after that, I believe the term was for that term to not let them wait and pay the whole year to go, but to prorate that money for that year, but not to start the slate at 300,000. There's talk about encumbering, but obviously they can't encumber something that wouldn't be. So I think in that late hour, we were more looking at a prorated, and that's how it was written. But again, the incentive is on them. The faster they build it, the faster it kicks in. But we are, if it comes mid-year, able to prorate and then rebate them that portion of the year that they've completion and give that portion of the money back to them. So if they complete 2 months, if they miss the September date but complete it in October, then they'd almost get a year of that difference money back there, and that would be the fair thing to do instead of make it go a whole year before they get the other one, and that's what he's accomplished within here.
Wasn't there some conversation about escrowing those funds during the construction period, in the planning period?
If I might, that definitely was, and I'm going to try to give you a little leeway. Usually we don't do comments, questions. That's the normal process. I know that this is not normal. I'll say this is that my assumption, and I stand for correction anywhere, is that one of the reasons that we looked at this was that we wanted to give the hospital the opportunity to make some additional changes, and that's why I use the word escrow. That might not be the best word. I really don't care what the word is. As long as we are clear on what we want to accomplish. And I thought what we wanted to accomplish was that to give the hospital the opportunity to take the dollars that we have for them to what they looked at was present value, and looking at the amount of money that would come in over a period of time, not that they needed the actual dollars at that point in time, but how could they reduce the amount of money for its present value, which is why I would say an escrow. Like I say, I'm not married to that, or prorate, but does this, what we're saying, get to where the body wants to go? And I thought that was to try to give as much relief as possible without increasing any dollars that we would give to them. And whether that's holding on, or can we do that? We can't. How do we do that where they can get the most relief from this agreement without actually getting any money until they do what the board wants? So with that, I'm open to clarification in a way.
I have questions.
Yes, sir.
What was the wording of my motion? I know I should know that by heart, but it was 11:30 at night. Do you have that, Irene? The wording of the motion?
From the last meeting.
Yeah.
I
Do you have that?
apologize, I do not.
I mean, I recall something about escrow, but again, that it was late, and there was a lot of things to discuss. I'm not opposed to what's in front of us. I just want to make sure it is consistent with what was motioned and voted on.
Yes, sir.
Just, for the record, my recollection, and I speak for myself, is reflected in this ordinance. Never in our discussions, Mr. Burgum, publicly or privately, was I willing to, do anything until there was a new ER complete. And like I said, publicly, that has absolutely nothing to do with the city's relationship with Florida Hospital. You've done everything that you said you're going to do. It's more so from a business standpoint for me is that, before we'll agree to it, hopefully voter referendum approves it, but the actual benefit in terms of reduction of the lease doesn't happen or is not realized until the new facility is established. Now, it wasn't mentioned at our meeting, prorating it, but it's the way to do it, in my opinion. And my belief, personally, publicly, and privately, is once we get to a deal, I don't like to renegotiate. And I'm not willing to do so on this. So I like the way the ordinance is written, and I'm willing to approve it.
And I appreciate that. The only thing what I say is that there was a lot of discussion, plenty of it, maybe too much. But somebody tell me if I'm wrong, is the reason that we went to doing it as far as this way instead of the way that the city manager had originally proposed was because it gave the hospital the opportunity of having some relief in terms of how they would account for the monies that we would give them. And it's open as to what the terminology is, and I definitely understand what Commissioner Tarpon talked about, and I think that was just the way everybody was at, is that they would not really get any money until it was completed. But, and the reason I used that other word was that we could look at saying, it's your money, you're not gonna get it, we'll put it aside, you're still not gonna get it. According to this, 5 years, and we put it aside, you don't have it done in 5 years, it's no deal anyway. That it would give them the opportunity to do what they needed to do on their end without us risking any dollars that we had on our end, which is what I thought that we wanted to try to accomplish. You know, I don't really look at it as negotiating a new deal. It's just trying to clarify what did we want to try to accomplish when we went through this, you know. And how do we do it? And I definitely appreciate where you're at. How do we do that? You know, and I wish that we kind of could have gotten to that point before we got back here. How do we do that? What does it really take to satisfy both parties? They don't get any money, but they still can count it on their books as X number of dollars that they will, quote unquote, receive towards this.
Again, and in the late hour, as I was trying to explain to you that it wasn't gonna work. The reason it's not gonna work is if you do it the way they say, and they're only paying $300,000, there's no $48,000 the first year to escrow. There's no $55,000 the second year to escrow. There's no $60,000. There's no money to escrow because they're paying $300,000 and not the $350,000. So in the late hour we're talking, again, in my term, it was the wrong word. You can't escrow the money because the money's not going to be there because you're paying $300,000. And the prorated thing is the way that's fair, because then, you know, they will get a portion of the money back if they've done in between. But to save that money and let it go 5 years without them doing, I mean, this is the incentive. They know their numbers when they get their data when they're going to get it done. If it's, whenever it's done, they can use the math formula and they can know if they're doing it in 2 years, they'll be able to know the numbers of what they get. If it's a year and a half, and they'll know it's prorated, so if it's in the middle of the year, they're not going to lose out that whole portion of the year. They'll get credit for the other ones. And so they achieve what they need to do knowing the numbers, and we do it a way where we can do a proper ballot language and do it proper, and that's what the language the attorney has in this thing, and is why that would be the language that I would endorse, and not anything involving complicating this thing more with an escrow and how you do it and stuff. That just complicates the matter.
Well, and that I get you, Vice Mayor. I just say yes, I definitely agree with you. If they only gave us $300,000, then there would be nothing to escrow. But if they gave us the whole amount, then there would be something to escrow.
And Mr. Mayor, that was the intent.
And if they gave us the whole amount, we would put whatever is over $300,000 aside until they completed it. When they completed it, they would get the money. And I already profess that math is not my thing. I like to keep it very simple. But to me, if you did that, it satisfies everybody, and we're quibbling over something that we don't have to. I would think that our finance department could handle that. The ballot language, we haven't even seen it yet anyway. So we're talking about what's here. I just say from my perspective, and I go to the Vice Mayor.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Mayor? And it's really just a function of when you want to make the lease reduction effective. That's really all it is from in terms of drafting. you know, whether an escrow is necessary or not. We're a municipal corporation. I think we're good for the money if we ultimately owe the hospital money. So whether it's opted to be escrowed or accounted for, however Ron goes about doing that, really, in terms of the ordinance and the ballot language, it's a function of letting me know when you want the lease reduction to be effective. So if the lease reduction is effective on the date of the referendum, if it passes, that can be written. If it's effective on certificate of completion, we discussed certificate of occupancy at the meetings, that's what's here before you. Again, I watched the meeting, again, it was very late, there was a lot of terms thrown around. I felt that the term escrow was probably used inartfully in terms of what it actually meant. I believed your intention at that meeting to be, we expect for the lease reduction to be effective when that facility is complete and operating. If you have and I may have, I don't think I did, but I certainly may have misconstrued your entire intention. That was a very long meeting. It was a little confusing. But it's really just a function of the timing.
I just think from my perspective, and I tell you exactly where I was at. My thought was, if we did it where it was escrow, and maybe that's not the right word, but if we would be accepting the total amount of money that they would owe us, and we would not, but we would put aside whatever that was above that reduction. We put it aside, and I think it's a simple change to the 5 years that, hey, if they don't complete the thing in the time frame that we have here, they don't get any money. We would still have all of our money that we want. I mean, to me, I thought that was the compromise to try to get to a point, because I would have to ask Mr. Herron, is that prorating it, would they be able to do whatever they need to do on their accounting side that will show that lease reduction that will give them the maximum amount of benefit from doing this, you know? And, you know, that basically what I'm saying is that if we did it this way, prorating, would they be able to then take that as far as their accounting mechanism, and then to look at the present value and the rest of it that we basically say we don't want to have any dealing with? Could they do that? And then I let Mr. Bergman, the rest of you guys, because I'm not against this. I just want it to be where we're actually giving them what we talked about that we wanted.
I just want to point out before he starts, though,
Yes,
it's
sir.
never intended, and even in the talks, and go back to the tape, for it to go right away. The first earliest moment that'll take effect is September 2017, because if you realize the payment for this year that's going on was a dash. It was never meant to do that. So even if you're talking your way, and we're talking about, that's what we talk about, which I don't agree with it on, and I don't agree with that thing, but just remember, your starting point is September 17, not when it's voted on or this year, because in everything you got in the numbers all of our numbers, the fastest they could get in the start was September of 2017. The 16 wasn't an option in any of the proposals.
Well, and I'm just saying, even according to what you're saying, is that whatever those numbers that we don't have, maybe it's good that they're not up there, but 2017, whatever that would be above $300,000 would be set aside. They would not get that money. They would get no money until the ER is completed. No physical money would they get until it's completed. That was my premise for what I thought we had agreed to, but, you know, Ron?
I think you're talking about the hospital's financial record, what you're asking earlier. I mean, like I say, the city, we're on the cash basis. The hospital, I got the feeling, based on their present value, they might probably want to have, but it gets back to when do they complete the building. That's before they probably have a firm time when they complete the building, is probably when they would feel comfortable saying, okay, we're going to put our liability back to present value. But maybe Mr. Bergen might know more about that. But like I say, our general fund is on the cash basis there. But it seems like they want a firm commitment to say, okay, this is what our lease is now, and this was what we can reduce our liability to. I'm not sure if that's helping in any way, but.
Well, I think the last part is, and I'll let Mr. Burgum speak to what he has. And,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor, and then I see Commissioner Tarpon.
So, Mr. LaCourse is correct that, what we talked about was effective with the 2017 payment. Mr. Mayor, you are correct based on my recollection of the meeting that we would continue to pay the full amount of the rent as currently written in the lease until such time, and you would escrow the difference starting with the 2017 payment. So that difference between that amount of money that we would pay the city would be, and the $300,000 would be escrowed. And then we would be able to calculate what the present value of those dollars are, and it would provide us with relief to move forward with the project. And I'm very comfortable with the 5-year window to get the project done. And so, I think that the hospital would certainly be satisfied with those parameters if it's acceptable to the commissioners.
Commissioner Tarpon. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
My question might be quick and easy. I'm wondering if I could just get kind of an update on the timeline. I know we're looking at a first reading right now. I'm not sure if the city attorney or the city manager could enlighten me. When would the second reading be, and when will we actually see the ballot language, and when will we be voting on the ballot language as well?
You can vote on the ballot language as early as December 1st. It can be done concurrently with second reading.
And is that the current plan, that December 1st?
Obviously,
The current plan was that that along with the one you did tonight about the Scrivener's errors would all be done on the 15th. Like you say, it could, yeah, I mean theoretically, I guess.
And that's correct, because qualifying doesn't end till December 2nd. So we would have to have, we usually have one resolution for all ballot language, not just the referendum questions versus the charter and the.
Okay, so it'll be done on the 15th then. The second reading of the ordinance
Of December
would be done on December 1st. The ballot language would come to you on December 15th.
And then I would just like to make a request that, and I'm not sure who's writing the ballot language, if that's being done by the city attorney.
Yeah, I am.
If we could get copies of that as soon as possible. The reason I'm asking is I'm wondering how it can be written, and I don't envy your task as an attorney writing this.
Nor do I.
Because I think it's going to be extremely confusing to the voter. I'm not sure how this can be worded in a way that will be understandable. So I'm just wondering if that information can be given to this board well in advance of that December 15th meeting.
Could we put a discussion item after they do the second reading, and you have what you think is the ballot language, discuss it the first?
Yeah, we can
bring it
work,
back the
if you
15th?
want to workshop the,
Well, just
essentially
put it
done
on-
as a discussion item, it's by workshops
Will we
about
put
it.
a
I want to use that term. Yeah, we can put it on as a discussion item at the tail end of the December 1 agenda.
And then you'd have a chance to do it, and then it'd come back to you.
And I'll get a draft as soon as I can to you. But that's, obviously the ballot language is going to depend largely upon the final construction of the ordinance.
So you're hoping we could even get a draft in advance of the December 1st meeting so that we could discuss it at the December 1st meeting?
Yeah, at least a few days, bearing in mind we have an intervening holiday and the like, but yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tarpon?
Yeah. First, I just want to say to Vice Mayor, I think that's a wise question. I certainly would like to, I mean, I know it's the task of the attorney to draft the ballot language, but I certainly think it's appropriate for all of us to participate in how it should read, since we're going to go to the public with our desire. And Mr. Mayor, by no means, I mean, this is your meeting to run, but just to try and, find some clarity in what we actually are trying to clarify. One is whether or not, whatever agreement we come up with, that commences on the date of completion of the facility, and then the other is whether or not we use the term escrow or prorated. Is that correct? Pretty much as the way you see it, the two items that we're trying to clarify?
Well, I think in my mind it's basically and I say escrow, is that in order for this to even be any different than what we would have done initially, in terms of not even messing with the lease itself, but just to go ahead and just give them X number of dollars or whatever, for them to be able to do anything, I think that it basically lies with the escrow of them giving us the full amount and then that portion is put aside so that they can look at whatever relief that they're gonna get, then nothing will happen. They don't get any money until after this thing is completed.
Right.
After it's completed, and it has to be completed within the 5-year time frame. If it's not, then the deal is off. Whatever money is there is ours, and it continues on as it is. I mean,
Okay.
so I think it's that first part and how we're gonna deal with
Right.
that we really are kind of.
So in an attempt to reiterate, so I can
Right.
understand. Number one is, whatever we come up with, the money that we're gonna give, the contribution, is not gonna be effective until the new ER is complete. Is that correct?
I hate to say technically, in that we'll say no money, there is no really physical reduction in terms of money that they would give us.
Right.
Would be the same until after the facility is completed. But they would get any money, if they fall within this time frame, any money that would have come to them because of reduction, they would get at that point in time.
Okay, so they're gonna pay, what you're saying is, they have up to 5 years. They're gonna make their scheduled lease payment. We agreed to the reduction of $300,000. From now until the completion of the ER, they're gonna make their scheduled lease payment. From the difference between $300,000 and whatever the balance of that lease payment is, will be escrowed until completion of the ER facility, at which point it will be credited back to them, if it happens within the 5 years.
Right.
Okay, I'm on board.
Right. That's basically.
Why didn't you just say that?
I mean, I thought I was, but I guess I wasn't, but that's what, sir.
Well, thank you for that. That's what was motioned by myself, if I recall, that I made the motion, again, it was late, and that we voted on. It's important for me that what we motion and what we vote on is reflected in what we're doing in first reading and second reading. And because the whole point, not getting back to the whole accounting lesson, but exactly that has been said tonight, is we did the escrow portion, and I believe the word escrow was in the motion. Again, I could be wrong, because it meant a happy meeting where they did not get the funds until the ER was complete, but it satisfied their release of liability on their balance sheet. And no prorated would not do that. So I'm in agreement with the mayor in the sense of that's what we talked about in the last meeting, and that's what should be reflected in this ordinance. So we're accurate and consistent.
We'll see where you have comments. Well, we're at that point, I guess, of trying to get a motion, and
We do have a motion on the floor.
we do? And what is it?
There's no.
Oh, I was saying, that's what I was saying, we're at a point of trying to get a motion.
We have a motion on the floor.
Well, I was asking you what it is, you said, I don't know. I
And in
mean,
a second, so I'm assuming it was to approve the ordinance, so the motion would be to amend.
No, you can approve it as drafted, but I understand there need to be changes come back for second reading. Or you just, so long as we're not changing the fundamental purpose of the ordinance, it can be changed before second reading. I need to get it to you for publication before when?
Only if there's changes in the title,
Fair
by
enough.
tomorrow.
We won't change the title.
Last thing, Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir.
So what we have discussed here about the escrow function will be in the second reading, correct?
Yes.
It will be, okay, thank you.
Any other public comments?
May I say thank you? Appreciate the support of the city very much.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
No?
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next is item 18, resolution 2018-42, amending resolution 2014-32, site plan for Bay Shore Heights subdivision. Why is that just?
Resolution 2015-42, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending in entirety Resolution 2015-32, approving application number 14-62 for site plan approval for a 21-acre, more or less 25 parcel, 60-lot, single-family subdivision located in Bay Shore Heights, beginning at Loquat Drive and extending north to Bay Shore Drive, providing for findings, providing for conditions, and providing for an effective date. Resolution 2015-42 by title only. This application is quasi-judicial. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the commission acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At such a hearing, it is not the commission's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In such a hearing, the commission is required to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented and apply those findings to previously established criteria contained in the city's code in order to make a legal decision regarding the application. The commission can only consider evidence that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If that evidence demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria, then the commission is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By that same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria, the commission is required by law to find against the applicant. All witnesses must give their testimony under oath. All persons testifying must give their name and address for the record. All testimony and questioning at this hearing must address matters that are relevant and material to the issues under consideration. The city staff will present its testimony and evidence first. The applicant will then have an opportunity to cross-examine city staff. The applicant will then present its testimony to witnesses. The city staff will have an opportunity to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses. Members of the public opposing the application will then be given the opportunity to present testimony. After all members speaking in support have concluded, members of the public in support will have the opportunity to present testimony. Each member of the public is limited to 4 minutes of testimony. The applicant will then have the opportunity to make a closing argument or summary, after which city staff will be given the opportunity to make a closing argument or summary. Following this, the commission will consider the application. Commissioners may ask questions. A motion will be made and a vote will be taken. At this point, I would ask for the commission to disclose any ex parte communications on the application. Seeing none, I'd ask for anyone who intends to testify in this application to please stand and be sworn. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Mayor.
Staff?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This is, again, an amendment to the original site plan approval for Bay Shore Heights. And this was heard last night by the planning board and approved. And what the substantive changes of the ordinance are is when the original ordinance was drafted, rather than putting in 60 lots, they put in 60 parcels. And the confusion here is the original underlying parcels that are out there are 25 parcels. What is being created as part of the subdivision is 60 lots. So what we've done is gone through the language and made those changes. There's also been an amendment, since there's a new site plan that's actually been brought into us as a result of the Swift Mud permitting process. Their drainage retention area had to change configuration, and as a result of that change in configuration, the lot boundaries changed. They're still consistent with the lot requirements for the dimensional requirements for R100A, so it's still a consistent subdivision, and the changes of the lot lines are the result of that drainage retention area being modified. So at this point, those are the changes, the substantive changes to the ordinance. Planning board reviewed this again last night, and they discussed the lot layout, the stormwater management ponds. They had some concerns whether or not some of the easements and things that have been put in place under the original ordinance and requirements for the development agreement were still in place, and those are still in place. And then they had some questions about the relocation of the gopher tortoises. There is an active gopher tortoise permit on this application. When they're ready to move forward with the actual development of that property, they already have secured that permit. They've also secured their Swift Mud permit and their ERP permit. They're ready to move forward with the actual construction, provided that we get through the semantics of making sure that this ordinance is consistent with what their construction drawings say. So with that, planning board recommended approval and staff also recommends approval. There's also been an additional item that was added that I put at each one of your seats. It just shows the new construction pond kind of blown up with the old construction pond underneath it, so you can see the difference between the ponds. And with that, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Any
Commissioner Tarpon?
Thank you. For the record, ERP stands for?
It's an environmental resource permit.
Thank you. In terms of the amendment, is there any new effect on the previously approved construction of the roadways?
No, none of that changed. The layouts remain the same.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
The applicant is shaking his head. He does not wish to make a presentation. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Seeing none, any members of the public wishing to speak in support? Closing statement, Mr. Danielson? Heather?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Seeing there are no questions, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yep.
Vice
Yes.
Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Miscellaneous item, number 19, reappointments to firefighters pension trust board. I think we have, two individuals, that, would like to be reappointed, Mr. Bolden and Mr. Angelo.
So moved. Second.
Any, public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. That concludes our agenda. Chief,
No comments, Mayor.
Mr. Attorney,
Yes, sir?
Madam Clerk, City Manager. No, sir. Commissioner Banther,
No, sir.
Vice Mayor,
No, thank you.
Commissioner Tarpani,
No, sir.
Commissioner Sieber.
Well, I have to bring up events again. We're having an art and craft event downtown on the last weekend of this month, a wine walk on the 28th, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
And I too wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully my eyes are correct in saying that we will adjourn this meeting at 8:12. Thank you.
Stay warm.
Drive safe.
Guys, stay clear.
We'll speak soon.
Yes, sir.
Do you want this?
Things are still moving. You know, I gotta try to, I'm gonna find out what your schedule is so I can come out there and watch your coaching technique, you know.
I get a little animated. I stay pretty calm here in commission meetings. I get fired up when I coach basketball. I really do.
You know what? I don't know how good a coach that I might be.